Hi, my name is Hilton, and I'll be very brief so the evening ends in elegance. Um, and you can all go off and have your supper. Um, I'm talking about a poet like no other. Brenda Shaugnessy is 42 years old and has been writing verse for most of her adult life, but in some strange way, I feel her voice is outside anything as limiting as chronology. Her tone, cadence, meaning are her own. I first met Brenda before her first book came out, 1999's Interior with Sudden Joy, and then I lost touch with her, but the social details hardly matter. I can't think of a more perfect title to describe Brenda's work overall. To read her is to feel sudden joy, a starburst of emotion in a closed room. Brenda's artistic presence is huge but modest because when you are possessed of genius, it doesn't have to declare itself, it just is. Brenda is a feminist, but she isn't an ideologue. Her first two books, 2008's Human Dark with Sugar is her second, are about a young woman's sentimental education. As in what we call real life, the women in Brenda's poems live lives that are hard won. Like their creator, taking the space one needs to make things is always a struggle. Women do not live lives filled with assumption. But Brenda's writing is never as obvious as my last sentence, and the politics are implicit in everything she writes, including her unparalleled poem, I Wish I Had More Sisters, which appears in her latest book, Our Andromeda, her so far masterpiece, which is on a par with Bob Dylan's Oh Sister in its brilliance, multiplicity of meanings, and love. In I Wish I Had More Sisters, Brenda muses on the fact that if she had more siblings, her interest in the Chekhovian drama of family would increase. An interest the poet envisions by imagining all those girls on the telephone or in person as they took sides against one another. Blood knows blood. But it also knows feminism. The sisters Brenda might be referring to might be her feminist sisters too, a thorny collective of love, competition, solace, and regret. In short, another family. The bravery one finds in every line of this poem exists because every line of it is brave. I Wish I Had More Sisters by Brenda Shaugnessy. I wish I had more sisters, enough to fight with and still have plenty more to confess to. Embellishing the fight so that I'd look like I'm right and then turn all my sisters one by one against my sister. One sister will, by the way, I had no idea when I chose this poem that it was completely autobiographical for me. I have four sisters. But that's the mark of Brenda's genius, is that it takes me days to catch up with her. I'll go back. Um, Embellishing the fight so that I look like I'm right and then turn all my sisters one by one against my sister. One sister will be so bad, the rest of us will have a purpose in bringing her back to where it's good with us, and we'll feel useful and she will feel loved. Then another sister will have a tragedy, and again, we will unite in our grief, judging her much less than we did the bad sister. This time, it was not our sister's fault. This time, it could have happened to any of us, and in a way, it did. We'll know she wasn't the only sister to suffer. We all suffer with our choices, and we all have our choice of sisters. My sisters will seem like a bunch of alternate me, all the ways I could have gone. I could see how things pan out without having to do the things myself. The abortions, the divorces, the arson, swindles, poison jelly. But who could say they weren't myself? We are so close. I mean, who can tell the difference? I could choose to be a fisherman's wife since I'd be able to visit my sister in her mansion, sipping bubbly for once, braying to the others who weren't invited. I could be a traveler, a seer, a poet, a porter, a fly swatter. None of those choices would be as desperate as they seem now. I'm going to cut in again and say, if you've ever listened to your sisters on the phone, this poem is fucking true. All four of them sometimes at once. I could choose to be a fisherman's wife since I'd be able to visit my sister in her mansion, sipping bubbly for once, braying to the others who weren't invited. I could be a traveler, a seer, a poet, a potter, a fly swatter. None of those choices would be as desperate as they seem now. My life would be like one finger on a hand, a beautiful, usable, ringed, rung, piano, and dishpan hand. There would be both more and less of me to have to bear. None of us would be forced to be stronger than we could be. Each of us could be all of us, the pretty one, the smart one, the bitter one, the unaccountably happy for no reason one. I could be, for example, the hopeless one, and the next day my sister would take my place, and I would hold her up until my arms gave way and another sister would relieve me. Thank you.